Hello there, BiggerPockets community. It's Sterling White here, your favorite investor. Hope you all are doing well. I know it's Friday, but we still got to get our hustle on this lovely day. I know it's a short week for most of you folks out there as well. So thanks for tuning in. I'm going to wait for a few folks to jump in here. Those of you who are on Facebook, please comment and let me know that you can hear me just below. And those of you who are on the YouTube, please comment. I think it's over here, letting me know that you can hear me. So awesome. So just a little bit about myself. If you are just now coming across me, I am a BiggerPockets contributor, and I do also invest in multifamily at this moment, and have just a little over 300 units in the Midwest, and that is in Indiana markets, Ohio markets, as well as Kentucky markets. So comment as well and let me know where you're from. I'm here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and it is not so sunny, but it's okay. It's still beautiful weather and another day to enjoy life. So awesome, please. So I'm gonna give a couple shout outs. We've got Clint from Clint Kirkpatrick from Kansas City. We've got John Segara. We've got Ryan Cheek. Thanks for joining. Nick Greena. We've got those on Facebook. We've got Patrick Dutanglin. Man, I'm getting some really hard to pronounce names this morning. And we've got William Colbert that's here. So today I'm going to be discussing the 5 reasons you do not want to be investing in single families. So let's go ahead and just jump right into the content. And one thing is, I am going to be, for those of you on Facebook, please give those likes and also those loves and those wows. Love making that wow face. And for those who share this stream, in addition to commenting, I will pick 2 lucky individuals to have a phone call with myself. Well, we'll just go on a high level wherever you're at in your business. I'll be able to provide some insight, whether that's finding deals in this tightness of a market, or it's doing some branding, marketing to attract investors, how to put deals together. So I'll be able to provide insight on that. So, and again, that's for those of you who share and also comment that you share as well on this stream. So I'll go right into the content myself. I did start investing in the single family side when I was in my early 20s, which I'm 27 now, about to be 28. So it's about 5-6 years ago when I first started on that side. So I'm just going to go into the reasons that I've learned through that space. And so give a couple more shout outs. Thanks Shane Wicks for joining from Jefferson City. We've got Thomas Elrod, thanks for joining. We've got Shane Hipskind, thanks for joining. All right, so let's go right into the content, guys. Thanks again for joining. So the first one, through investing in single family homes, if you're really looking to scale, it's difficult. So that's one of the reasons why it's not as beneficial to invest in that class. So for instance, I own just a little over 200 single families. And through that process, I would say it was close to about 150 transactions involved with that, 160, because some of those I did purchase in bulk. So it's difficult to scale when you're purchasing individual single family homes. The second is the vacancy that you experience with that. And for all of you who are joining, don't hesitate to drop any questions in the comments. This is all Q&A. I'll do my best to get to it during the stream. And if I'm not able to get to it during the stream, I'll jump in after the comments and also answer those questions as well. So thanks again. And so the second one is a vacancy in terms of occupancy. So it's great when you do have that property rented, the single family. It's 100% occupied. Woo, great. You've got cash flow coming in, hopefully enough to cover your mortgage to where you've got some free cash flow as well. But then once that does become vacant, you're 100% vacant. Versus, again, if you have a multifamily such as myself, that you would be able to one unit goes vacant, you still have others that are occupied, and those tenants are kicking off income. So there's that, the vacancy associated with it. The third one is less control. And by less control, I mean in the event that you sell the asset, that it's based upon what properties are selling for in the immediate location. So there's a high probability that you'll be capped in terms of what you can sell it for, versus more on the multifamily side that things are more traded based upon the cap rate, which cap rate, I can go into that at a later point, but based upon the income that it's kicking off, if you push up that NOI cap rate, that people are willing to buy at a premium because you've been able to push up the income on the asset. So that's more on multifamily, so you have more control, versus on a single family house is based upon what the neighbor or the house across the street sold for. So we got the fourth one, and let's see if we have, what do you want to scale? Let's go for it. Yeah, that's a great point. And so the fourth one is the difficulty. So when you do scale or attempt to scale, that in the event that you're wanting to sell out of your single families, that it's just more difficult to sell in bulk. So when you're wanting to sell in bulk, let's say you have 700 single families or 736. I know I gave an exact number, that when you're wanting to sell those entirely, if you want to get out of it for whatever reason, that you have to find a very specific buyer who's going to be a portfolio buyer on all of those single family homes. So that's the difficulty to sell in bulk. If you're selling in ones and twos, that's completely fine. But again, that can be a process, because I'm currently experiencing that as I'm selling the single families under my holdings. And then the fifth point is economies of scale. So this is the most beneficial, and just to provide my story is, again, over the course of the past 2-3 years, acquired a little over 200 single families, and through that, they're all scattered throughout the city of Indianapolis and some in Dayton, Ohio. And through that, the time it takes to manage that is a lot more labor intensive, because let's say a maintenance request comes in, you have to drive over here, and you've got all these multiple single families in different locations, versus what really was the light bulb for me was when made the transition from single family to multifamily, bought a 46 unit apartment complex, one transaction, one buyer, and all of those units are in one location, where it's a lot more efficient in terms of there's multiple maintenance issues. They're all in one location versus in multiple spots. So, and through that, it's significantly easier to increase holdings, because after that bought a 50 unit, and it's just the scalability on that. So we've got Daniel, who just woke up at 7 a.m. Yeah, I'm switching things up on these streams, doing them a little bit earlier. It's actually 10:08 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I'm going to go ahead and go over these 5 points again. And for those of you, please like, and also give those wows for those of you who are on Facebook and on YouTube, as well as Facebook. Please share the stream and also comment. I will be picking 2 individuals to have a phone call with myself. And again, please comment, let me know that you share, and I may just, for the hell of it, let's just do 3 people. I think on the last stream I ended up doing 3 or 4 people when it was only supposed to be 1 or 2. But ultimately, I'm just here to bring the most value to you guys and just share my experiences in the industry. It's all about give, ultimately, helping others. So going over the 5 points to why you do not want to invest in the single family holdings is, the first one is the difficulty to scale. With that is you're having multiple transactions. You're just doing one-offs. Sometime you'll be able to get some portfolios or some bulk purchases, but it's extremely difficult versus on the multifamily. You can just buy a larger complex or mid-sized complex, one transaction, one buyer, And then the vacancy, it's all good when you have one tenant that's in there that is making those payments. Awesome, you're 100% occupied. But when they move out now, you've got zero cash coming in, and of course if you're leveraging it, you still have that mortgage payment that you have to pay. So that's one thing to consider. The third one is just got here. So we've got Rootify who just jumped in here. What I'm discussing is the 5 reasons you don't want to invest in single family property. And so the third point is less control. So with that is you're generally capped off on what you can sell the asset for, because it's single families are based upon what your neighbor's house sold for, versus on the multifamily, things are traded based upon what you would call a capitalization rate, but that's mostly driven by the income produced by the asset, the net operating income, and that's after all expenses, of course. So there's less control from that standpoint of where your destiny goes. The fourth one is difficulty to sell in bulk. So one thing that I'm actually experiencing is, as I'm selling my single family holdings, just a little over 200, that I'm just doing one-offs right now to really get those optimal prices. And to find a portfolio buyer, it's very specialized, and you have to find, it's a very narrow buyer portfolio to find that person who's going to buy that in bulk. And then the fifth one is economies of scale. So again, I share a little bit about my story. Is had just a little over 200 single families, well, currently to date, and then decided to make the shift to multifamily. Bought a 46 unit, light bulb went off, and through that, it was so much efficient in terms of when you're managing all of these single families that are in multiple locations throughout the city. Let's say a maintenance request comes in, you have multiple throughout, that they're having to drive through all these different spots to perform that. So it's the cost of the legwork. It's more management intensive, versus if you have all your units in one location, it is a lot more streamlined. So I'll go into these questions here. Thanks, Timothy, for sharing. I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you. Timothy Smith on Facebook. Go ahead and slide into my DM your contact information, and we'll get a call set up. So again, everyone, I truly do appreciate your time. I'm not in the stream just yet. Just always want to say that. We've got Colette Cole. Thanks for joining. He's here on Facebook. So I'm going to jump into these questions. Despite the ability to scale, I think buying what you can when you can may trump waiting until you can jump into multifamily. I'm sure you have corresponding why you should not buy multi. That is a great point. And Owen Daniels, who is on YouTube. And I would say if you can start on the single family, that is completely fine, just to get your foot in the door, because waiting on the sidelines, ultimately you'll just keep waiting on the sidelines. But again, just sharing from, and again, you have to basically determine what your goals are. So if you're really looking to scale things out, and let's say you want 1,000 single families, then it is more ideal, just from my personal perspective, to go to the multifamily side, because at scale, managing that many single families can be a nightmare. So it just depends on what your goals are. I would say if you're looking to get started, you don't have the capital. Myself, I had no cash, no credit in my early 20s. So what I did was I started purchasing single family, and through that I actually partnered with someone who brought the capital, and I did all of the legwork in terms of the management and finding the deal, working the transaction to bring my sweat equity to the table. How difficult is it to manage a 46 unit property? Charles Tim asked, and I would say it's not, well, it depends on your location where you're purchasing your assets, but it's significantly easier than managing 46 individual single family homes throughout the city. So hopefully that answers your questions. You just have to have the right systems in place to be able to manage the your assets ultimately. All right. So going to go through a few questions here. Is outsourcing property management a viable option to help with the overhead of driving around to all your properties across the city? That's another thing too, is that goes into the economies of scale, is property management companies charge more in terms of a property management fee. Generally, you'll see 10% of the gross rents, versus on the multifamily, it could be range anywhere between about 3 to 5%. So that's already built in from the property management side. And of course, they've got their other costs that they charge you for as well when managing your assets. So what was her question again, though? This thing keeps jumping around. But I would say yes, if you're not able to devote the time yourself to self-managing, which is not ideal either way, it's always optimal to leave it to the professionals. Even if it's at a cost of 10% of the rent if you're on the single families, but you're saving your time, and that will allow you to focus more on high value activities such as acquiring more deals, which everyone is looking for in today's market. So all right. How did you get started? A great question, Francisco Rivera. I started myself in the construction industry, I would say when things hit the fan, 2008, 2009. Worked a couple years in that, and then got in the single family side on the investing. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I found my first deal through no cash in pocket, no credit. I actually had minimal cash, well, negative cash, because I over withdrew my bank account, and and through that I was able to find someone who didn't have the time to be able to find deals, and that's what I brought to that partnership. They brought the cash, I brought the deal, and also I brought some management, and I basically managed the asset entirely. So that's what I brought to the table there, and instead of taking a wholesale fee on the deals that we partnered with together, I got some equity. So that's how you do it there. Okay. So let me see what questions on here. How did you find someone to partner with that just wanted to put in money and let you do the work? Was it a private lender, or do they get a percentage of the profits? It was actually a mentor. So someone that was at my CrossFit gym, always overheard his conversations. He was in the multifamily sector as a developer, and he had some holdings, but looking to diversify into single families. And that was, again, he didn't have the time. So through that, he took me under his wing. I started working for him for free in his management company. And then that's when he said, hey, I'm looking for some single family deals to further diversify. Said, hey, well, I've got the time, so that's what I can bring to the table. We had the capital. So it was an equity relationship in that. I believe it was 90-10 split. What kind of would you hire? Forrest Green, that is a very great question. He says, would you need to hire a leasing consultant and manager and full-time maintenance for a 46 unit? I would say no. That is more optimal between the unit size of 75 to 100. Well, 75 is when you actually want to start looking at that. 75 units and up, to where it makes sense to have have employees on site, such as a property manager that has a dual role that can do some leasing, in addition to a maintenance guy who you'll generally have him work some hourly, but he'll live on site as well, and that'll be some of his payment. Is your offering in housing? All right. Got some other ones? No, John, thank you for the great question. And so hopping over here. Did you hire more maintenance techs and a property manager for your apartment building? Yes. And myself, I actually self-manage in a way, but self-managing meaning my partner and I, got to go with the we, is we built our own property management company. And through that, we have all of the property manager, the leasing consultants, and also the maintenance techs. And now we own just a little over we have 3 apartments comprised of 176 units. And so through that, we have the multiple maintenance techs that flow around to the individual properties themselves, and also the leasing consultant as well. Can you buy property with credit cards? I am unsure on that. You may have to just simply Google that. Which does not. And again, for all of you who are on Facebook, do not hesitate to share in addition to comment that you shared, and I'm going to have a phone call. I've already given out 1 or 2, but I'm just going to be giving them out like candy now. And once you comment, I'm actually looking at them now on Facebook, and I will just go ahead and set something up with you now. Jump in real estate. What's up? What's up? Great meeting you too last weekend. Ryan says, are you syndicating? Yes, I am syndicating some deals. Actually, 80 units right now as we speak through our investor network. Trying to find more questions. These questions just disappeared for some reason. Oh gosh. Let me see how I can open that up. Bear with me. Oh, that did not work. All right. So Darnell says, I appreciate you being open and transparent on this call. Thank you for joining on your comment as well. Oh man, well, how, if you guys could bear with me, I'm trying to pull up all these comments that are just now flowing in. Having some difficulties. Let me see. Gosh, that's not gonna work. Okay. So Darnell asked, I'm just gonna get them as they come in. Well, Jump in Real Estate says, I'm in agreement that multifamily is the way to go, but what are some challenges that you see with this type of asset? I would say right now is the difficulties mainly is quite a bit of buyers from out of state, even out of the country, realize how premier these, or how the benefits associated with owning multifamily. So there's more competition, and of course there's less apartment complexes throughout the U.S., and there's more single families. So that's the challenge at this moment, is a lot more people are chasing after a very limited pool of multifamily. But if you're myself, 50 and 150 units is what I target. But if you're a little bit less than that, there's more opportunity, or maybe if you have a more horizon where you're looking at starting at 50 units up to 15 units up to about 100 units, then that's even more beneficial. It just opens up your pool of potential deals that you can pull down. Darren asks, where are you based out of? I am based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, the city that never sleeps. Just kidding. They call us Naptown. So I don't know if we're just the city that people are sleeping on us, or people just don't get things done. Who knows? Darnell asked that, how does syndication work? It's I'm trying to think exactly how to properly answer that question. That may be more of a legal question, so I can actually revisit and answer that for you, Darnell. But mostly, if you're offering you have multiple investors and you're promising a return to them, not guaranteed, never guaranteed something, that is when it does become a syndication. So that's what it is in a nutshell. And then through that process, you definitely have to have your legal side in line, because again, this is securities that you're dealing with. You do not want the SEC knocking on your door. How does a beginner find multifamily? There's so many different avenues that you can use. There is cold calling property owners. Again, all of their information is public record. It may be an LLC once you actually pull it, but you can Google search the LLC and generally find a decision maker or an owner. There is direct mail. There is door knocking. There's so many different avenues. I would recommend for you, Mags NG on Facebook, to just go on BiggerPockets and see how to find deals. And through that, you'll see all the different channels that you can utilize. Awesome. I'm based in Illinois. Great to hear that. Francisco Lopez. What is the largest property you can 1031 into from a single family home? I believe there's no cap on that. Exactly. Yeah, there's no cap on that. It just depends on how much you're able to get out of that single family and then put down on a multi-family property. But that's something you may want to check with a mediary on, because they're the ones that deal with that process. All right. So those of you, again, I truly do value everyone's time. And again, if you happen to be on the stream later, then please share and then comment. And again, I'll be picking more individuals. I would say 2 more folks to have a phone call with myself. And again, we'll just go over whatever elements in terms of if you're having troubles finding deals or looking to bring on investor partners, how to put a deal together. I'm more than happy to provide value. I've had calls previously and people have loved them. And again, please do not hesitate to like if you're on Facebook. So, all right, one more question. With single family, you can get mortgages personally, but how do you get the financing for larger properties? Most likely a person would not qualify for a mortgage. So there are specific standards such as net worth and liquidity that you would have to satisfy in order to get those a mortgage or a loan from on a larger deal. And through that, if you don't necessarily meet those qualifications, then you may have to bring on a key principal, is what they call it in the industry, who does meet those qualifications and can sign on to the loan for you to get you qualified. All right. Is it possible to give variable return rates on repayment timeline? Rich Trot, if you could elaborate on that, I'll do my best to answer that. What is easier to find, 50 or more, or less than 50, according to how we can put deal? I would say it's easier to find less than 50. There's a lot more that's been built out there, especially on the single families. You don't see as many larger or mid-size or smaller apartments out there. So, all right. So, would you start with apartments or would a duplex be? So this person says, would you start with apartments or would a duplex be a good start into multi-family properties? I would say for you, start where you're comfortable with. Myself, looking back, I still would actually start on the single family side because I've learned so much through that, and I may be contradicting myself a little bit, but it's now looking back. Well, now what I have now, glad I went the multifamily route, just seeing what has happened through the managing and also all those transactions as well. So it's a double-edged sword essentially, but basically just start where you're comfortable with. If you can go a duplex, go a duplex. It's always it's more optimal to go bigger. So I would recommend maybe your minimum 12, 16, or maybe 20 units if you can do that. But do not stand on the sidelines just waiting for that optimal deal. Duplex, get your feet in the game, and then that's when you can really get the ball rolling. Johnny says, are you exclusively in Indianapolis, or he says, are you exclusively in Indianapolis, or do you have properties in, hello? Oh, you're fine. You're fine. He says, are you exclusively in Indianapolis, or do you have properties in Louisville, Kentucky? I like pronouncing it that way for some reason, don't know why. But so under contract on a property that is in Louisville, Kentucky. So that's a little bit about that, but primarily is in Indianapolis, Indiana, and have got some in Dayton, Ohio as well. So thanks, James. James Humphreys, glad you enjoy the content. Again, I'm just here to provide the most value to everyone. So again, if y'all have any more questions, do not hesitate to comment on, if you're on Facebook, comment below. If you're on YouTube, one of these, and I'll jump back into it and do my best to answer. Well, I will answer those questions. So thanks again. And those of you who have already nominated to have a phone call with myself, just shoot me via direct mail, slide into the DM is what the young group would say on with your contact information. We can set up a call. So thanks again, community, BiggerPockets community. You guys are awesome. Have a wonderful upcoming weekend. Thank you.